What is going on, everyone? This is Sean from All Things EV, and this is a really unique video, and I'm extremely excited. I cannot wait to dive into this. This is Norbert here, who's sitting with me, who's the sort of mastermind of a energy efficient, decarbonized neighborhood here on the west side of Denver. I'm excited about diving into this concept that you've developed and how you've managed to incorporate a lot of the things that those that care about the environment, sustainability, energy efficiency are really going to enjoy learning. So why don't you talk a little bit about when you came up with this concept and some of the things that make it special.
Okay. I came up with this concept more than 10 years ago. When I came from Austria, I moved to Boulder, and I learned very quickly that the building technology in this country is not nearly as advanced as we are in Europe, because 10 years ago, already a third of all homes built in Austria, 1/3, were passive houses. And passive house means you build the building so well that you don't need any active heating and cooling. Now, with all the sunshine in Colorado, I felt it should be a shoo-in to do it here. And it actually is, because we have twice as many sunny days in Colorado than we have in Austria. And therefore, a passive house in Colorado should be much easier to build. However, I had to learn that the building industry and the trades are so different to what we are used to in Austria that it took me first about 5 years to improve the home I lived in Boulder.
So you started with your own house in Boulder.
An existing house from the 70s.
Made it efficient, developed the concept, the idea, proved it out,
right,
and then transferred it over to what we're about to see today.
Exactly. Now I could only reduce my energy requirements in the existing home by about 50%.
Okay.
Because there are certain things you cannot do in an existing home. So,
for example, I'm curious to know, there's a lot of people who have existing houses who want to make their house more efficient. So what did you do to get to that 50% efficiency?
Okay. In this case, it was primarily better insulation. Okay. I put a foot of cellulose in the attic, which doesn't cost very much. And then I blew in insulation into the walls. But the walls are 2x4 walls, so they only take very little insulation.
Sure.
And I didn't want to take the outside panels off. The most expensive investment was the windows. I put in triple pane windows, which I'm also using in all my homes here. And that was pretty much all I could do. And it resulted in a 50% reduction.
So no solar on that house?
No.
Okay, why not?
Because our electricity consumption is so low that the economics of just putting 2 kilowatt of solar on there is not there.
Yeah.
So I'm just buying the solar from Excel. Mm-hmm. And however, the most important thing for making energy efficient homes is first to save the energy. The cheapest energy is the saved energy. And that's what I concentrated on. And then based on that experience, I designed wall systems and air tightening technologies. And I had a couple of friends in Boulder who were using my Geos technology for their homes. However, these were all $1 million plus homes.
Sure.
And I said, if I want to really make an impact in our energy usage for the housing industry, I need to scale it down and make houses affordable.
Exactly.
So now we have a portfolio of homes here which are all decarbonized, and they start at 425,000 and go up to 700,000.
And to insert a little bit of real estate insight here in the Denver area, we're looking at about somewhere around $500,000 to $520,000 for the average sale price here in Denver. So you're well below that average sale price in Denver, which I think is really appealing. And I'm curious to dive into how you're making all of this that we'll talk about today, the efficiency of the house, for what I would consider as a professional in the real estate space, relatively affordable.
Right. That was the big
that's the linchpin, right?
challenge.
How do you make that accessible to as many people as possible?
Exactly. And the way I did it is I built first 8 homes. This was in 2015 and 2016, which were my models. There were a 4-plex of row homes, which were my starters. They are 1,500 square feet per unit. And then 4 single-family homes, which were 3 different models. And that was my testing ground. Now, that was a very, very expensive experiment.
Was this, you invested your money personally? Did you invest this personally? So this was not capital investment from a developer or investors. This was out of your own pocket because you believed in the model.
The equity I had to put up. Obviously, I got some loans, but the first 30% on a new project like this, you have to bring in your own equity. And I needed to do this because I had my project already approved by the city of Nevada, and then I had a big conference with all the builders who claimed at that time that they were green builders. And I said, look, you're doing a great job, but we have to leapfrog this. We cannot just improve our performance every year by 5%. We don't have enough time for that. And so I presented to them with my architects and my engineers and my whole team how this could be done. And none of them was gutsy enough to do it.
Wow.
None of them.
Yeah.
And so I said, wait a minute, I'm not giving them up. So this is the start of our project. These were the first 8 homes.
Okay, so phase 1.
Phase 1, these 4 row homes, and then 4 single-family homes. And I said, if I can do it here, then I can just multiply it and adjust it. This wasn't done yet. This is a larger home, the one we are in here, than this one. And I was bleeding for sure, because I could hardly recuperate the actual construction costs, but I did much better than some of the builders. They're all the national builders from KB, Horton, Lennar. They all have done a model net zero energy home. Also here in Colorado, mostly in California because the state there forces them, but they also did in Colorado. And I talked to those people and they said, look, it cost us $250,000 more to do a model home net zero. And I said, I want to make 8 of them. Does that mean it cost me, $2 million more?
Right.
I said, I can't afford that.
You've got to find a more efficient way to do it.
Find a more efficient way, and that meant basically that I was on site from morning to...
You were micromanaging everything to make sure that you were squeezing out maximum cost efficiency.
So I did this with a premium which was only a fraction of what they had to do. And I, at the same time, developed a trade group, a builders group from framers right down to electricians and HVAC people, which then I could use for the others. So my big loss on the first 8 homes could be cut down considerably as we went along. And now, after having built 25 homes, I'm pretty much on top of it.
Amazing.
I have only a cost premium of construction of about 10%, which falls basically into the luxury addition details which other builders are putting in there in order to make their homes more attractive.
So the first place that you've started is making the home energy efficient.
Right.
Construction materials, you've got insulation, sounds like that's a big part of it.
Insulation is a very big part, particularly to make it airtight. And the way we do this is we are using a layer of foam, spray foam on the inside.
Yeah.
And then this is only about 1 inch. And then before we put the actual insulation on it and the drywall, we do a blower door test. And I have somebody go around with a spray foam and spray whatever leakages are there. It's not a big deal. It cost me maybe about $600 or $700, but it tightens up the house.
And this is the insulation between the exterior and the interior walls, correct?
Correct.
Is this? I gather that this is probably something like a 2x6.
Yes, they're all 2x6 walls.
Yeah. So this is a step up from 2x4. So you're getting some extra space in there to make sure that there's maximum efficiency.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And we also put a 1/2 inch of hardboard on the outside, because with the framing you get the thermal bridges. The wood has only an R value of 1.5, so you have to block the thermal bridge of the framing, and that means you have to have a hardboard on the outside.
What else have you done? So that's one component of it, but there's some other components of this that make these houses so efficient.
The most important component, and that is something which nobody has copied yet, although it's so logical, is the orientation of the homes.
Yes. And this is not, by the way, a patented idea, right? This is taking advantage of
thinking.
how houses are facing.
Using your brain, right?
Facing towards the area that gets the most sun.
Exactly.
Which direction?
Which is the south,
Yes.
obviously. And you don't have to go very far. Mesa Verde is designed that way.
Yeah.
The Native Americans had already figured this out. They put their homes all facing south, put them into the rock, so in the summer they got the coolness from the rock. And I had to obviously simulate this with better insulation, but the same concept. And however, if you have a dense build-out, you need to separate the buildings from each other so they don't shade each other. And that's the checkerboard design. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we can insert that in as we're discussing here.
Right, and that is a very important element because it works both ways. It works for the winter. All these south-facing walls are even still getting 100% sun exposure, even right now in December when the sun is very low. They're all separated about 40 feet from each other. And in the summer, it has the overhang, so it doesn't get heated up either, because their western windows are very limited, and that's where the heat comes in the summertime. It's on the west. So my house in Boulder is broadside facing west, like most houses, because they think they need to look at the mountains every minute of the day. That heats up like an oven. Although we have planted all kinds of trees on the west side, and now we cannot see the mountains either. But if you want to protect your structure from the extreme heat in the summertime, you have to make sure that you don't get it from the west.
So you've got the appropriate facing direction for this neighborhood. It's checkered. So because what we see a lot in North American neighborhoods is that the homes are just one after the other next to each other, but what you've got is a concept where they're checkered or staggered to allow the passive solar to come into the house during the winter and to keep it out in the summertime.
Exactly. And the side benefit is, if you look at this building, it's surrounded on 3 sides with gardens. It's the gardens of the neighbors, but from light and pleasure, it doesn't matter if the tree next door is owned by you or by the neighbor.
Right.
So these homes, although we have a density of 15 homes per acre, are like a park. If you look out at any one of those windows, you only see the trees of your neighbors. You don't see any buildings.
I want to underscore this point because this is really interesting in the wintertime. What you're saying is that because of how the houses are positioned, you're heating the house in the wintertime completely by solar, completely by sun, by passive solar?
Right. There's a heat pump in my ventilation system, but it draws only 500 watts, which is like, a third of a hairdryer. And that one covers the morning hours. Usually 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning is when it gets the coldest in a house. And then it might have dropped down to about 68 degrees or 67. Then the ventilation comes on and brings in some modification of the heat, like less than a hairdryer, and that keeps it on the level. So when I get up, it's 69 degrees, and all night there's no heating whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because it is so well insulated that it doesn't lose any heat.
So we haven't talked about any mind-blowing, earth-shattering, patented technology here. This is just taking advantage of what we already know about efficiency of how the sun works and positioning of the houses.
Right.
You're taking advantage, of course, of modern technology with insulation, but
and the windows. I have the triple, which are fortunately made in Colorado. Yeah.
Great.
Alpen is the brand, and they're made in Niwot, which is between Boulder and Longmont, right? And it's a triple pane achieved by a film between the double and filled with argon, and the frames are fiberglass, which is very important because our movement right now to go from aluminum to vinyl has the disadvantage that vinyl expands and contracts, but this is like glass. It doesn't move.
Stationary, yeah.
And if you have a big window like this, if you would have a vinyl frame, it will become leaky after 1 year of heat in the summer and cool in the winter. This is stable, and this company is unique. They have done the Empire State Building. They have replaced all the Empire State Building windows with the triple pane windows.
Yeah, great.
Very, very good partner of ours.
Yes.
So that's very important. And then another little side point, I was very glad that I was able to solve this. Our traditional doors to the outside are wooden doors, and they have an R value of 1. So after I had tightened up the walls, I got good windows, all of a sudden I found out that I lost 10% of my energy through the incoming door.
Okay.
So I had to replace the incoming door with a thermo-true door, which also has fiberglass panels and is filled with foam and has an R value of 9.
Okay. And what's the highest R value?
The highest in my building is up on the roof. It's about 42.
Okay. And how high does an R value typically go? I'm not...
Oh, you're not familiar with the R value? Yeah, it can go, when it's 100%, it might be 100, right? But that's totally theoretical.
Got it. Understood.
What one needs to know is that, for instance, standard homes, like the tract homes built by those national builders, they have wall R values of about 13 to 15. Okay. Mine are 28. And that is determined by how much insulation you put in there. My doors are 9, so they're almost as good as the walls of other.
Amazing.
And this one is 6.5, the window. A standard glass window is 1.
Wow.
So this is 6 times.
It's quite a step up.
Right.
Okay, so
okay.
we
now the mechanical system.
Yeah, so this is the last component to the secret sauce here in these houses. So
Exactly.
Talk about that.
Yeah, the mechanical systems are really the breakthrough. I think that's the leapfrog, where I kind of jumped 10 years in development. And that was possible for 2 reasons. First of all, we were able to reduce our loads so low that a standard furnace or an air conditioning system as it's used in other homes would be 4 times too big. And that, however, allowed me to bring in a space conditioning technology from Europe which deals with these much smaller loads. So my peak load in this building is 10,000 BTUs. I don't know if this means anything to you, but 10,000 BTUs is about, compares to about 70,000 of a comparable standard home.
And this is BTUs is
British thermal units, which means it's how much energy you have to put in the house when the outside temperature is -5. That's the standard.
Yep.
And that would be 10,000 in our case. And then this is the model of how many BTUs we are using at any hour of the year. This is 9,000, each one of those lines is 1 hour. And you can see these peak loads. This is actually for a single family, which is a little larger than this. These peak loads are very limited. There's 1 hour here, and then there are 2 hours here, and then there are 3 hours here. And in a well-insulated house like mine, it doesn't matter if it drops for an hour or if it drops for 10 hours. So I'm saying, I don't care about all this. First of all, they happen at 5 o'clock in the morning and everyone is sleeping and it doesn't matter. So then I come down here and I found out that 83% of all the heating requirement is only at 6,000. So I designed a heating system which deals in this area here, rather than in this area. At the moment, when a energy modeler gets the data on a house and gets the insulation values and so on, he tells the HVAC guy, you have a peak load of 18,000.
Yeah.
Then the HVAC guy says, I never want to be called up by this homeowner because it's too cold, so I add 25%. So then he designs a system at 25,000.
Yeah.
But actually, he needs one for 10. And that's the jump I made. I said, look, nobody will measure these BTUs. He just says, is this house comfortable?
Yeah.
Right? And I can guarantee that my house is comfortable if my peak heating load is 10,000. And all of a sudden, I'm down at, to give you an idea, a hairdryer is 1,500 watt, and each watt is 3.5 BTUs, so it's about 6,000. A hairdryer is 6,000. I am here at 10,000, right? Peak load.
Yeah.
As you could see, the peaks are very rare. This is where we're heating. And I have, in this calculation, I haven't calculated the sun. The sun takes a third of my load.
Yes.
So my little hairdryer thing is only on a couple of hours.
Amazing.
Isn't that something?
You're efficiently heating and cooling the house, but you're also leveraging the sun as well to help heat the house in the
Exactly.
wintertime.
I take first the sun, and I only use the supplement when like it's cloudy right now.
Yes.
So then this guy does it.
Yeah. How much solar do you typically put on a house?
Okay.
Single family or multi-family?
Right. Let me only finish the story on the heating and cooling, because it is all related to my ventilation system. If you have a tight house, you need good air, and you're not getting it by like opening the window an hour every day, but by using a ventilation technology which measures air quality, which is currently only used in operating theaters and laboratories. But my builder of my heating and cooling system from Urbana, Illinois, was able to source a sensor which measures CO2, the opposite of oxygen, and VOC, which is volatile organic compounds. And whenever these levels are exceeded, the ventilation comes in. And that is another big energy saver. So therefore, my total savings of 75% compared to a standard home is 1/3 orientation, 1/3 air tightness and insulation, and 1/3 of a smart HVAC system, heating, cooling, and ventilation system. Now, having done all this allows me to bring down my energy requirements to a level that my roof is big enough to totally power the home. Where so far we were only talking about heating, cooling, and ventilation, but my big challenge was plug loads. Homes use primarily electricity for cooking and lighting and all their appliances. And I was wondering if I have it available, but I needed to make a very important policy decision, namely to assume how much more energy efficient my homeowners will be in using electricity for their house, because the average American home uses 9,000 kilowatt hours of electricity without heating and cooling, right? And so I took my experiment from Boulder and I said, my homeowners might be just as efficient. By the way, here's a little chart how the energy recovery ventilation functions. We're bringing the waste air back from the bathrooms and the kitchen and bring it to a heat exchanger, and before the fresh air enters the house, the energy of the outgoing air gets transferred. But in any case, this was a chart which showed where average American homes are using energy for washer, dryer, cooking, name it.
Yeah.
And I took this and said, hey, where are we saving? We're saving primarily on lighting because all our lights are LEDs. And but also I equipped all my homes with Bosch appliances, which are about 30 to 40% more efficient than other appliances. And so I really met my target. And the target was that I should have enough space on my roof that it totally powers the house. And if somebody does what I am doing, namely run it a little bit more intelligently, because shading, for instance, I don't have any shades because I want the sun to come in. Now there are obviously some homeowners who say, hey, for privacy,
Yes.
I would like a shade. And I said, okay, get a shade, but close it at night
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and open it when you're not in the house.
Mm-hmm.
But some people forget.
Sure.
So then they're missing out on this
Yeah.
gain,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But your question, how much PV do we have? 5 kilowatt on the townhomes.
Yep.
And 6 kilowatt on the single family homes.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very small systems.
Mm-hmm. But that coupled with all the other efficiencies that you have is powering the home enough to make it zero carbon.
Right.
Completely decarbonized.
Decarbonized and no power bill. The only bill you have to pay is for the meter.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 2 meters. We have a solar meter who measures how much we produce.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a return meter which shows how much more or less than the sun produces we use.
Mm-hmm.
So it builds up a credit in the summertime and it wears it down in the wintertime.
Sure. You've got some owners in the neighborhood that also own electric cars too. So you're
half of my homeowners have electric cars.
okay.
We're already
This
10
is
years ahead.
it's quite impressive because one of the things that critics and detractors say about electric cars is that they're being powered by coal and gas, but not in this neighborhood.
Not here.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I drove my Prius until I had my own house and the solar panels on it, because at that time, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, Excel still had like 60% coal. It has now come down to 40%.
Yes.
But it's still 40%.
This is transitioning pretty quickly too, because power providers are looking for cost savings, and that's a really big one for them. If they can generate renewable energy through solar and wind and to some extent battery storage, that's got an impact on the bottom line for them.
Totally.
But there's also an environmental benefit as well.
Right.
For those that care about it. I think this is really exceptional. Are there any sort of lasting thoughts that you want to leave with the viewers about this particular neighborhood or just the concept as a whole?
Yes. The first thing is I would like to share the experience I've had here, because obviously most of my home buyers were buying these homes because they were tickled by this unique decarbonization concept, but they weren't really understanding too well how this is done. If you say, hey, this is a net zero energy home, how many people really know?
No one gets what that means. Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed bringing them into the knowing of what all this does. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, most of my houses sold because of references of people who live here. Mm-hmm. They talk to their friends at work or their relatives or their neighbors. Yeah. And it becomes a movement. Yeah. This is what I wanted. I wanted to be a movement, not just some idealists to enjoy their little home, but
there's an environmental motivation for you with this community, and so it's not just about finding a way to make money. I gather from you, you want people to take this concept and reproduce it in other areas of North America and the globe.
That is the ultimate idea. This is limited by the industry, because even now, with me having 25 homes. Whenever builders are coming over here, the bigger ones, right? And I start to demonstrate to them what I have been doing here. He says, we couldn't use any of our houses for this. We had to totally redesign them. Yeah. And these are relatively bureaucratic organizations with many departments. And then he comes up and he says, either I take your drawings, but then I have to sell it into my organization, or we have to redesign it from our own point of view. So I am now limited basically to small builders who can do maybe 10 or 15 homes a year, because they are happy from getting my designs and getting my subcontractors and getting my permits with the city, because this is what they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
They just want to build.
Yes, sure. Yeah, they want to churn things out fast and high profit margin, high volume, but there's a little bit more.
No, they cannot do high volume. These are like guys with 3 people, you know.
Sure.
They, as I said, they can only do
Of course.
a dozen homes.
Yes.
They are primarily custom home builders, and they have built like 3 homes a year.
Yeah.
And now I say, hey, if you build these 4, you can build them at the same time as a custom home.
Right.
Right?
Well, what I love about this is that it's efficiency and sustainability at an affordable price. Relatively affordable price. This isn't quite lower income, but I would say this addresses the middle part and higher market. So those that are looking for something that's, you know, north of 400,000 and, you know, under 800,000.
Exactly.
I'm really glad that I got a chance to sit down and talk with you about this. I'm gonna in the video description link up your website where people can learn more about Geos neighborhood, and I'd love to hear everyone who's watching this video. I'd love to hear your comments, because here's the thing that I think is really interesting. This is new build, but what you've done with your home is something that anyone can do with their existing home. So this doesn't mean that if you want if you want to decarbonize your house, you don't have to build a new house. There are some things from what you're saying that people can do with windows, with insulation. They can do that with what they have currently.
No, the only thing they cannot do is the orientation. If they're oriented wrong, they cannot change the house.
Of course.
And the other one is they cannot do the energy recovery ventilation, because standard homes, they have somewhere under the staircase have to return air, and you cannot start ducting from your bathrooms. You would have to really guts. If you do a total remodel or something, you could do it.
Yeah.
But if you only do a moderate infiltration in your house, then it's. So I think you can get 40 to 50% improvement in existing homes, and we have to find ways to do this, because, you know, we need to decarbonize much sooner than until these houses get replaced.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Norbert, thank you so much for taking the time to chat and show us everything.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to keeping in touch now. As a real estate professional, I can think of some clients who will be buying in the next 12 months that I definitely want to introduce them to this neighborhood to see if this fits their idea of efficiency and sustainability.
So our plan is the following. This is what we have built so far, right? And we are here. And now this summer I'm going to build the infrastructure going west, and then we start in the summer probably building these homes, which are kind of mirrored to this. So,
Great.
So we will have the same type of homes available.
Wonderful and exciting.
Okay.
Okay, so
you want to go to this house?
Yeah, let's definitely walk through the house. I'll wrap up here, and then we can do that. So, Sean from All Things EV, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch everyone on the next video.